what was wrong. You know, as an artist where you... Oh, really? You know why I'm not running, because there's nothing going on. Ah! Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. It is Amanda Small, aka The Model Artist. Welcome back. Today I'm actually going to share with you a commission painting I did and the process I went through in order to get it from idea to canvas. So if you're excited to see how I did that and how it all came to be and all the bumps and all the interesting things that happened, then stay tuned. There are a few steps that are a little different than what I would do, obviously, if I was just doing something I created out of my head. First thing is you want to get a consensus of who the person is, especially when you're doing a portrait, which is what this was. This piece I was doing was for a friend, Antwain, someone that I met while I was over at the Savannah Film Festival this past year, and he showed great appreciation and admiration for my work and was really interested in investing into my artistry, and I appreciate that so much. It makes you want to do better work for them, but also just, you know, you're just inspired and encouraged by people like that. So I thank you, Antwain. I appreciate that. So because we decided we would do a portrait for Antwain, it was really important that I got a consensus of who he was, and he sent me, actually before I even asked, he just sent me information about himself, things that made him who he was, that he was a man who stood for things. He believed in working together, he believes in you know, working hard, Afrocentric vibes. His leaders and inspirations and idols are like people like Malcolm X. Really cool things about himself. I can't remember all off the top of my head, but they were really cool, and I just remember just getting really excited because then I was able to just already think of cool concepts of how to make this portrait for him. I also asked him to send me some headshots of him, and then I went ahead and I started doing my sketches. And knowing that, okay, Antwain is a guy who is about something, I probably don't want him to be slouching and looking lazy. I want him to be standing firmly. So I did 3 different looks that kind of had that same sort of powerful stance, and I had him facing forward without his hands, I had him facing forward with his hands, I had him sort of like quarter view with his hands up, and I kept it very simple. I didn't want to do too much because it was what I was really going to focus more on were the colors and patterns, and keeping everything in mind. He didn't want anything really bright. He's more of a grays and neutrals kind of guy, and so I played off with that, putting in a little bit of bold color here and there just to see how he would feel. And that's a good thing to do also when you're doing commissions. Just throwing something in there, throwing in also your artistic eye and what you know as an artist would look good, and just throwing that in there, just seeing if they like it. If they like it, they don't, but if they, you know, if they don't like it, they don't, but if they like it, it's also something that it's cool for them because they wouldn't have thought about it and they actually like the idea. After I did the 3 sketches and throwing in the color, I did 3 color comps per sketch. We then met up on Skype, which I honestly like the most when doing commissions and when talking with someone. It's more organic. It's like speaking to them face to face if you can't do that actually. Skype is great. I could send them the files and then we could talk about what he was liking and what he was really interested in seeing. And so we looked at the sketches. We came down to one pose that he liked the most. We talked about little things that he didn't like and things that he did like. Loved the maroon background. We decided to get rid of the bracelet. The idea for the bracelet was initially I was going to add that as my Afrocentric vibe, but considering that we had the Ashanti symbols, which I researched and found, each symbol represented something of a characteristic which he shared with me about himself, and I was able to research and find these Ashanti symbols and each symbol representing something, so I thought that would be really cool to add. And so we decided that we would just leave those symbols, get rid of the bracelet since he's not much of a bracelet guy, but we would add a cool watch. And so I was really excited that I got to, you know, make, you know, paint a watch and then add really cool elements like gold flecks and all that. So really excited. After we kind of came to a consensus of what he was liking, I then went back and I did one more sketch, one more you know, color comp with the same figure, and just, you know, kept the background maroon and just changed slight things. And we talked about pattern. He wanted a pattern tie, so we did that. And met again. Actually, take that back. We didn't Skype again. I emailed him. and I sent him the photos, and he looked at those photos, and he actually liked the combination of two. And so it was really easy for me, because he just liked the shirt of another and the tie of another. I just had to put them together, and it was magic. Once we got a consensus on that, it was time for me to work. First thing I did when starting this painting was the background. The background is, you know, the thing I always do first, and I feel like every artist is different, but I feel like you should always start with the background, honestly, just because if you mess up in the background, like if you paint something on accident out here, it doesn't matter, it's gonna get covered up. Or, you know, if I painted this whole figure, then I have to be super careful not to get paint on this. Obviously, this could be a little bit easier just because it's a plain background. But if I had like a whole like pattern or something, and then I had to be really careful and making sure everything worked well with like what's going on in the forefront, you know, it just, I don't know. I recommend painting the background, but hey, if you're skilled and you don't need that, then do you, boo, you good. From doing the background, I just decided I would just fill in all the solids for the whole body. So I did the grays on the shirt, did the gray in the hat, did his face, did the beard, his hands, all that sort of stuff. Because it's very, you know, this painting's pretty simple, I'm just gonna go and explain to you the more interesting parts of this painting and the things I struggled with, you know, with this, and things I was excited about. So let's start off with this face. Alright, look, this is a nice face. I struggled with this face, and for the longest time while painting it, I couldn't understand what was wrong. You know, as an artist where you... Oh. Really? You know why I'm not running, because there's nothing going on. Ah! Oh, fire. Just kidding. When your mom's making barbecue. I don't even remember what I was talking about anymore. Face. The reason I struggled with the face, or let me back up. I was struggling with the face, but I didn't know why, right? And sometimes when I'm struggling with something, sometimes I want to just force my way through it, but honestly, I just create more problems with it. So it's always better that I leave it alone for a couple of hours, or I just leave it overnight and I just come back and I take a look at it. And when I found out what was the frustrating thing, what was not working, was that I didn't measure the face right. And even though I'm stylizing it, I don't intend for it to be perfect or look exactly like, almost like photorealistic of the person, but I still want it to look like the person. And I talked about this in my Solange paintings, like, I don't want you to look at her and wonder who the heck she is. I was struggling with that, and I realized from looking at my reference and looking back at my painting that there was just some measurements that weren't quite right. And so I realized I had his ears a little too high, and there was not enough distance between the skin between his eyes and his face, and you know, there wasn't enough room up here where his head was, and not enough room down here where his cheeks were. And I had to just basically, oh, and his eyebrow was too high at one point. I had to bring that down. So I had to just basically do some surgery, get my white paint and make some lines on his face and his ears, and I had to change up everything. And so you'll see in the photo that I did a little bit of rendition. I had to outline the face, because or the brim of the hat, or not the brim, but you know, outline the ends of the hat where I covered up some paint places that I wasn't, you know, using, or I messed up on, or whatever. And once I fixed that and I started painting it in, it looks so much better. And I was like, okay, now we're on track. Now this is looking right. Because I was so frustrated. I was like, what is wrong with this painting? Like, something's up. But I'm telling you, it's so good to sometimes just leave your work and come back and double check. Because once I did, man, it just made a whole bunch of difference. And Antwain was looking more like Antwain at that point. Another thing that I was kind of wondering about was the pattern on the shirt, because he wanted a pattern on the shirt. And initially, I wasn't sure if that was going to look all that great with a pattern on his tie, but I've seen it done, and so I was like, okay, well, how can I do this pattern where it doesn't intrude or isn't too much, especially because this tie I really want to stand out, and this is one of the most exciting parts of this painting. So I just made it very simple. I didn't want it to be too structured, too right. I want it to be more organic, sort of almost, you know, I don't know what the word is, but you know, not so precise. And so what I ended up doing was I just made a lighter gray color. I took a brush and I went, you know, back and forth on each side. So these are just little brush, you know, strokes essentially. And I like it because it's not super intrusive and it's still cool. It's still a pattern, and it's not perfect, but it still does what it needs to do, and it still serves its purpose. And speaking of the tie, y'all, was, oh my gosh, the tie was the funnest thing for me to do on this painting, like no lie. Like I had so much fun doing this. Pinterest is a good source for looking at dope ties, and I mean, I created this pattern, but I saw a lot of inspiration on there for how to do really cool some cool ties, basically some cool ties. So I did a rose pattern. I saw these really beautiful ties. Like honestly, like if my man loves ties, I'm gonna get him some of those, like, because those look really cool. I might give them for my brothers because they're really cool. But I did that, and that was so fun. Like it was so relaxing just doing that. Honestly, I'm gonna use this pattern in another painting and do it in a background, because I really have fun doing this, and I think it looks really cool. You have to get excited about your work though. Like you really do. You have to get excited and have fun while you're doing it. Otherwise, it's dreadful. Like there's nothing worse than working on a piece that you're just not having fun with. That's why you don't want to take every commission job. If you're really not interested in it, then don't do it, because you're gonna struggle through doing the piece because you're really not interested in doing it. So don't take all commissions. Take the ones that you're really excited about to do. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a pain and you're not gonna enjoy doing it. The other detail that we have, of course, is the watch. I had a lot of fun doing that. And some of the elements I add, of course, we're just adding like a little bit of gold flex paint. I don't know if it's called gold flex, but that's what I'm calling it. A little bit of the gold acrylic, I guess that's a better way to say it. Gold acrylic paint, just to add a little bit of detail, like so when it shines in the light, you probably can't see it really, it's not the brightest light right now, but it would shine. I got a little bit of it in the ring. And if you look at the sketch, initially I had a pin tie or tie pin, or I don't know what you would call it. And it didn't look good. And it was again when I looked at my painting and I was like, something doesn't look right. I think it would have worked if this tie was thicker, if it was a thicker tie. Also, if I had put the pin all the way through, which I didn't, I only had it partially in. And I knew if I wanted this painting to look better, I would have to remove the pin. And it was annoying because I already had the pattern on the shirt and the pattern on the tie, and so I knew I would have to repaint some of the tie and repaint some of the shirt. And what's annoying about it isn't necessarily doing it, but getting the colors right, because you don't want it to look obvious, like she definitely messed up here. Like this gray looks like a totally different gray. I don't know if this is red or pink, you know, whatever. Like you don't want that. So that was annoying, but you know, I knew if I wanted to look good, I had to do that. And so those are some of the things that I think are the artist's struggle. Like you know something's wrong and you have a moment where you're like, I just want to leave it, but if you want it to look really good, you gotta go ahead and do the work. And so I did. And I was super glad once I did and I saw it. I was like, oh yes, I'm so glad that I did that, because that would have annoyed me just looking at it. And it was kind of crooked, so honestly I should use a ruler too. But I mean, honestly, even if it was straight and I still drew it the way I did, it would have been terrible. It wasn't that crooked though. It wasn't like, you know, upside down or whatever. But anyways, the last couple of things, other than you know, just giving him little detail, like finishing up his face and his hands and stuff like that, I added a little bit of detail in the background. It's very subtle, just little light splotches of maroon, so it wasn't just so plain, because he did ask that what could you do so that the background isn't just plain maroon. So we did that, or I did that. I put little splotches of maroon, lighter maroon, and then up here we put the Ashanti symbols. And if you notice from the initial sketch, I had them on the side, right? That was initially where I was supposed to put them. You also may have noticed that there's less room up here than there was in the sketch. And initially I thought I was going to have more room, And I could have had more room, but the thing was I would have had to sacrifice size of Antwain to give him the space up here that we initially set out. And I didn't want to do that, and I took sort of an artist license and decided, you know, that this painting would be more successful if he was larger, which means sacrificing some of the space, which I think is fine. I don't think it kills it. And you have to, like I said, painting is as much creativity as much as it is problem solving. And so you have to constantly be thinking about what's best for this painting, what's best for it to look at its best. And so made him larger. There's less space up here, but I think it totally works out because I want him to be the main focus. And then I decided I honestly could have made this and put it on the side. But then it would have only been a little bit right here, and I thought, I mean, that could work. I could have it slightly overlap the hat, but I didn't really want to do that. And so I thought, honestly, just having it written right up the top, kind of centered with everything, I think works out really well. Kind of playing with the gold and gold here. And I thought that worked out really well. And I was really happy. And painting the symbols was actually pretty fun. I just painted on another piece of paper. I put white charcoal on the back so I could trace it on here. It actually looks really cool with just the white charcoal. And then I just painted it with the gold paint. And that's Antwain, and that's his piece. And I showed him on Skype and he loved it. Then I took a picture of it and actually he could see it a lot clearer. So I wouldn't recommend maybe showing your client the final piece on Skype, only because the colors faded a little bit on Skype and the computer, depending on like how well the, you know, the camera's working and all that kind of stuff. It's just better to just send them a straight up photo. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you would like just hearing a little bit about my process with doing this painting. It was a little bit more simpler to describe as, in comparison to the Solange video, but it was still nevertheless, it was still all the same, just as fun. Well, I didn't get to add jewels on this one, so that kind of hurt my hoard a little bit, but it's okay. I got other paintings coming up where I'm gonna be all jeweled out, so I'm excited. Thanks for watching this video. I'm not really, I wouldn't consider myself really a YouTuber, but I am an artist who uses YouTube to promote her art and to share what she really loves. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye. This gives it that extra special touch, and I can't wait as like grows in the arts. I'm gonna do even more than gems. Like, you know, I want to do one where it's like, well, I won't tell you. I'll just let you see.